I guess we don't have the same. It's the exact same shirt. Like, what the heck? Okay, my buttons. Yours will, mine's like a little sticky. Oh, it is. I wouldn't call sticky buttons. These are flat.
We're getting a new projector any day now. Just tell me anyway. So if you believe that.
Next semester.
After this question, you want to see other
Charles, we're doing the presentation today. Like, as you can see, I've got this screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to like move around.
It's kind of weird, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Well, we couldn't have read that anyway, so you may have to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. Pretty much, this is, starting from the beginning, with the architect meets with the client. This is the meeting notes. We're pretty much, for our project report, we showed everything that we're doing. We're just gonna do like a PowerPoint bullet points. We want to show you how the meeting notes are going. This is just the first meeting, which is pretty much setting the foundation, getting all of the client's needs and wants, going over the list, getting the vision that he wants to go to the building, and writing it all down. And as the architect listens, he can do some sketches, just in case he comes up with some ideas. And this is well, you can't see it, but kind of the stuff that they talked about. The client states a list of needs. The architect asks the clients to describe in detail his ultimate goals and vision for the project.
Chris, can you review once again what your team is and what the roles are and who's on the team?
Yeah.
You don't really have a programmer, do you?
The one thing that we don't have.
He's the programmer, and then I'm the consultant slash contractor, and then Michelle is the architect, and he's the he's mainly the orchestrator, so I mean facilitator slash supervisor for the entire group, or the design team.
Yeah, and every other role will just get together for it.
So you're like the project manager in a sense?
Right.
It does show some sketches, kind of like what they went over.
Yeah.
What they went over in the meeting, just some ideas, just getting that building that rapport, the relationship with the client, letting them know that you're going to be with them throughout the whole entire process, starting with the programming.
Okay, well, here we have, the architect assembles the design team, and, as, well, you can't see it, but listed are the contractor, the engineer, the lead consultant, landscape architect. We thought that all those people had, I guess, something to say about, as far as the programming, HVAC system, how to do the engineer, contractor, codes and there's regulations that we may not know about concerning the school. And lead consultant, how we orient the building and other things like that that would help in designing the program. So we assembled the design team and we met with them, and here are the tasks that were assigned to each one of those individuals as far as research for the program.
So in reality, how do you think these consultants will be selected?
In reality, I guess based on experience, kind of like
so it would be, you just call somebody you know is really good.
Right, yeah, any relationships that you're able to establish.
So you're not going to bid it out or anything?
No. We're going to try to keep it all internal as possible.
And they would be independent contractors, like legally? You wouldn't make them your employees, right?
No.
Yeah.
And then here, pretty much after that first meeting with the architect and client, the architect, after he does assemble the team, which he just did before, he gets together with the design team for a meeting and goes over, presents them the charrette, presented the whole idea, the concept, what the client wanted, his needs, and the client rebuttals, talk about the budget as well. And also the question.
Yeah. Well, what happens with the client is a part of the design team because they have some say in the development of the program. So we develop a questionnaire, not a questionnaire in the sense that it's a survey to ask people what they feel about the program, but it's a questionnaire to get some of the initial ideas about the program and the school. So we pass it out to each one of the consultants, like the contract engineer, and some ideas what they feel that at this point in time after being briefed about the program or the school, they feel would work best within the program. So we just had a questionnaire of I think, like say the engineer would be like, I think we should have HVAC on this side, or the contractor would be like, oh, we need to be mindful of this code, or whatever it is, and then the architect will take that information and go ahead and start designing or start the design process with information or the feedback they receive from each one of the consultants.
So have you done that now? Is that
Yeah.
step finished?
Yeah, that's because that was in September, late September, so we've already gotten that. And now in this phase, what we're probably going to come to that is where the program is researching and putting together one of the things that would help design the school.
This is pretty much architect going, he meets with the client as well. There's going to be meetings back and forth, just to let them know that they're in the process as well. You never want to let them not know what's going on. You always want to keep that relationship, and also I think lead to more work in the future as well. So the client, you present them with the site analysis that you started going ahead and do it, the space usage. There is some.
Yeah, it's like this is a little diagram.
There's some pie charts here that talks about the space usage during the school week by faculty, and then during the school week by students, how it varies, and it does vary.
Yeah, you can't see the pie chart.
And then talks about the slope and typography, and just a little on the top right, just a quick kind of explaining which spaces are more important than the others for the new program. This doesn't resemble any square footages. It just tells the bigger rectangles, I guess, they just represent the more importance compared to the smaller ones.
So here's where I ran into a problem when I looked at this earlier, and why I had the impression that you didn't really have a programmer is because these meetings are with the architect and client, and you're talking about programming that's been done already. And I don't see the programmer in the meeting, and I don't know who prepared this preliminary design program. Was that the architect that did that?
No,
While they were having all these meetings and everything like that, I was doing a lot of the site analysis, really trying to dig into the space usage and space relationships and things like that, and trying to develop a program that would be based solely on kind of how the spaces relate together. And then after that, I would get with the architect and we would start talking about really how is that going to work.
But
So-
you don't meet with the client.
Right.
Yeah, we kept it just as the architect meeting. He's pretty
So
much.
if the programmer's not meeting with the client, where are you getting all your information and your input?
At the original meeting with the design team. So the program was there at the design team.
So do the users have any say in this?
Yeah, and the clients were there. Exactly. That's in the and previously in the other slide it said, like he's talking about client rebuttals. Everybody got their chance to speak at the meeting. As the client was there too. So that way everybody would have, that's what the survey for, get everybody's feedback. And then the architect was working with the program in order to, develop, start to develop the program, because we haven't actually designed the program, or we're in the process of designing the program right now. And the architect is, if he's the facilitator, he would be the one who would be contacting the client. So he has more of a relationship as opposed to the programmer.
Also previously, we had a design charrette that I headed that was with the students and the faculty to just kind of generate some ideas about the program and really how they interact in the spaces.
That's good, because I was left with the impression that you had that one meeting, and that's all you needed to get all the information you needed to do this preliminary design program. and you were off to the races. It just seemed like you were doing a shortcut or making it seem much like you could do it in one meeting.
Yeah.
But that's not at all what you
No.
did, right?
No.
Okay. That's what I thought you did, though, when I read the progress report.
And moving forward, this is just another meeting with the design team, and they pretty much go over, any new, the contractor, they'll talk about, they'll go over the contractor engineer, they'll talk in zoning regulations, the engineer will talk about the structure analysis, he opens it up to any questions, just starting to get ideas for the design phase to start up, and as well as the landscape architect and the lead consultant, they suggest any new building orientation, water conservation, and then the architect just closes up the meeting to go ahead and gather everything together, and then from there it goes on to the next step, which is
Individual meetings with particular people from the design team. So here, architect meets with contractor, which is me, and then you meet with the practice engineer and then the landscape architect. So we're having these individual meetings to kind of, I guess, better assess, I guess, the needs that the program has as far as each individual.
I'm going to keep interrupting. I found in your meeting minutes there were almost more a description of what happened rather than the results of the discussion. It was like, we talked about this, but then I didn't see too much information about what you agreed on or what was decided or what information was actually gathered. You talked about what the activity was, and that kind of stopped there. And in a lot of cases. And you got to be careful because the meeting minutes are a good place to document what was decided, and then everybody agrees to it. You know, you send the meeting minutes to everybody that was at the meeting, and you say, please review this and verify that this is a correct reflection of the meeting and the decisions made. And then you've got almost a quasi-legal document, so that if they change their mind later on, you can go back and say, well, in this meeting, you clearly said that this was a decision, and now you're going back on that, and the project's taking longer, and we're going to need more money as a fee. Unfortunately, in the world out there, you always have to kind of cover yourself with, things like that, because it's doing programming is tricky because people are sometimes not being completely honest, and they get caught on it, or they're just learning or thinking about it for the first time, so they give you their initial reaction, and then they think about it some more, and they realize that they didn't make the best decision or choice in terms of the information they gave you or the decision. And so it's very fluid, and so you really have to keep up with it. You can't assume that once somebody says something, that's it, the issue's over and it's done with.
go back to summarize.
You know, the other thing I noticed is that a lot of these comments are about the existing condition of this building.
Right.
And I don't know how relevant that is really. Because we're not renovating this building. We're kind of starting all over with a blank site, let's say. And we don't want to be dragged down by the things that this building already has. It's like we're re-envisioning the place. And so talking about whether there's direct access to outside and stuff like that, that's only important to make sure that in the program that you end up with, there is direct access to whatever kind of space we have that's similar to like the atrium here.
It was kind of, I guess it was sort of like a case study. There was an idea of maybe using the existing building, because it's technically that would be more sustainable, but yeah, we can totally like wipe that out. I thought it wouldn't be an issue like redesigning the entire, but having the same, I guess, shell structure with conserving materials and other things like that. But I mean, it was more so a case study to say, okay, this is what not to do. This is the problems and issues that you have with the previous building. What the users didn't like about the previous building, and then develop a program based on what was done wrong in the past, and just kind of do that, and then bring in, I guess, new precedents to kind of get in.
But we don't really want to end up with this building 2.0, because the world has changed dramatically since 1975 or 76 when this building was designed. Actually, it was designed 1980. So that's a lot of years. And the whole idea of what architectural education was back then is completely different than it is now. And we're living with the limitations that this building, and luckily this building doesn't have as many limitations as it could because it's a bunch of big open spaces. It's sort of like being in a warehouse in many ways. But it also has some real limitations that we don't want to keep living with. Now, if we had framed this exercise as taking this building and re-engineering it, repurposing it, redoing it, to bring it up to a point where it should be in the 21st century, second half of the 21st century, whatever, that's a completely different project. And that would require quite extensive analysis of this building, doing a post-occupancy evaluation, and then looking at what opportunities this building provides in terms of being redesigned, reconfigured, added to, part of it demolished and replaced, whatever, all those different options are. Which I agree is more sustainable than just assuming a building burned down or was torn down, which is a big waste of material, obviously, and so on. But I was kind of framing the rules of the game this time as starting over.
Okay. That's good.
These are just some of the spaces that, through research and the charrette and everything like that, were come up with, and just kind of loosely what their purpose would be. And let me go ahead and go on the next. And this was kind of diagram that I got during the charrette of just kind of how the spaces kind of relate to each other. Maybe a little bit of what their organization was, where kind of people started and then went to, like such as the studio space. A lot of times, you know, students will be in there and then they'll go to a classroom, or then they'll go to the conference room and things like that. So just basically kind of thinking of like maybe how circulation would work, maybe how organization layout would work and things like that. And then this is just kind of a more broader general breakdown of the different spaces kind of clustered together and how strong the relationship would be, such as the learning spaces like the classrooms and the studios would be strongly related to the amenities, but not as strongly related to the special event spaces, because those would mainly be for people that come from outside, such as guest architects and stuff like that. And these are charts, the space usage charts that we referred to earlier, and just kind of how I did a survey on basically how much people felt like that they used certain spaces during the week, and then compile that information into charts for faculty, for students, to just kind of figure out, you know, if you have a space that's really large but it's never really used, maybe it could be used for something else, or combined uses or something like that.
So why do you have two circles? One is students and one is faculty? And we can't see the circle for students, so can you just summarize quickly what the sections of the pie are and how big they are?
Well, from the students, well, not a majority, but about half is studio space, and then probably about a third is classroom space, and then the library, workshop, computer lab, and critique spaces makes up about the other third. Or that wasn't that. Makes up the other portion. Sorry.
Whatever that is.
And these are just some aerial pictures of the site and some of the surrounding location, as it was with the existing building or the previous building. And this is a map that I got from GIS, kind of talking about the grade and building on the grade and the topography. Here is a diagram. Earlier I had a diagram that was a space relationship diagram, and this is kind of a more refined one after some more research and just some more information.
Now, some decisions are built into that diagram, like the computer labs being behind the library. Now, I know that we have computers in the library, but why, it implies that you go through the library to get to the computer labs, and are those all the computer labs, like the ones we have on the second floor here?
I think it could be, obviously since we use computers so much, maybe it might not even necessarily be a computer lab. It could be almost like maybe like a kiosk or a small computer space, something like that, not necessarily a room for computers, but just kind of a space.
Well, you know, one time in the history of the school, basically most students didn't have computers because they were expensive and laptops weren't invented yet. And so we designed this building with the idea that we would provide the computers. And more that's changed to the point where I'm not sure exactly why students use the computer lab here. I know there are some students whose computers are not as powerful or not as fast, or the computers, they left it at home or whatever it is. But I see very few students basically in that computer lab that we set up. And I know we're constantly trying to keep up with the technology and get better computers, but I think many of you have better laptops, faster laptops than the kind of desktop computers that we can have, because we can't replace them every year. We have to wait 5 years sometimes to upgrade. So if that trend continues and computers become faster and cheaper, and you've got unlimited storage in the cloud, and we no longer require a lot of printing, a lot of it is projections and things like that, then you have to ask yourself, what is the role of a computer lab in the future? And maybe it's just so a group of students can get together with their device and have an instructor there teaching them how to do certain things with certain applications. I don't know. You guys are probably in a better position to kind of brainstorm that than I am, but that's the kind of stuff you need to think about. And even the role of the library. You know, the library might be like sort of a historical relic, you know, where we stop, and we've already stopped getting back, you know, getting a lot of stuff that we used to get because it's, you know, people all have it online. And that's going to continue.
I don't know, North Carolina State, I want to say, they have an automatic library kind of sort. Like, you don't go in the library, you just go up to the library, ask, like, you put in, I guess, the ISBN or whatever it is, and then the machine, like, spits out your book. Then they have, like, a regular library, but then they have that, so that way you don't have to, like, search through the library every time you go.
Well, I was listening, I think it was public radio, I don't know if it was this morning or yesterday, but where they were talking about libraries that you don't have to go to the shelves and get books. You email the library and say, I want this particular book, and you end up with an ebook being sent to you. And you don't have to go anywhere. But it's a borrowed book from the library, or whatever magazine or whatever you want. So it kind of changes the whole way it all works. And the library becomes kind of a community center for meetings and for different groups to get together and kids to get together and sort of children's activities.
I feel like one thing for a library is that there's value in having books opened up and spread around, because it's like you don't have screens big enough to hold all of those pages. As far as me, I need a library. I need my books.
Yeah, but your kids won't.
That's true. They would.
Plan A, this is our work plan manager. And just listen to different activities that I have going on, and then how they complete. We did, as far as the one that says not complete, the write a report, it's more of an ongoing thing. Every time we meet, we have to write a report. So I didn't know if I put a percentage for that necessarily. But as far as the whole design team rating out the building, gather them together, so it's 100% complete. Meeting with them, we had a meeting with them, we had 2 meetings with them, research, that's an ongoing process, so we're not finished. I don't think we'll be fully finished until like the finalized program, and analyzing the data, which comes after research, and then it's not really finished until near the end as well, so that's 40%. And so as far as writing the report, of course it's not started because we haven't finished it. And then develop the program. Actually, we just started this weekend, so that's the update for that.
So as you're developing these reports, let's say deliverables, is the draft version sort of on Blackboard? Are you guys doing that back and forth on Blackboard? Or?
We try to. The thing is, we use Google Docs, and we're consistently like changing things on there, and it tells you when it's changed. I want to keep putting it on there, but every time I try to put it on there, I just feel like we're changing it again, or he's changing something on there. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like there's gonna be missing information. You might get confused. And like, wait, that doesn't make sense because he's not done with this part yet. But that's what we're trying to do right now. We're trying to upload all the stuff that we have. So you see, well, I don't know if we can invite you to the doc, you know, the way to do it.
So that works better. Google Doc.
I mean, I use it for clients in real life, and they love it. I mean, it's something very easy, and they just always see the revisions, and you can never make a mistake. Let's say you just want to go on there and start erasing stuff, I can always click back all the way to the first day.
I've used it, but and you can't do something equivalent on Blackboard, right?
No, because all you can do is upload.
Just upload.
Yeah, you can't like, we'll have to keep uploading the same one over and over. And then you just have to keep going all the way down to the last PowerPoint. I mean, the last slide of the PowerPoint.
Is that true? Does everybody else agree with that? People who are trying to use Blackboard? The groups?
Yeah. You knew it's uploaded.
That's too bad. All right, good. That clarified a lot for me. Okay, you got the next group ready?
Beautiful weather over there.
Right there.
I got called for the game because my coming in. I was that was a big
Yeah, that's kind of.
Yeah, you know, the band was sort of kind of it was funny when they were lining up getting ready to start the parade, the band would stop driving.
Avery, did you guys download this? Whatever.
But yeah, we can see the band. And then obviously it was a big game, and it was kind of raining, so I got to see the band, but it was just kind of, but, yeah, they played. They were good. It's just North Carolina A&T this weekend.
That's not you guys.
I know, we had ours, but it went away.
Or, I mean, you can always go to the
I'm not a man.
Florida Classic. You get that. There's also,
Yeah, you gotta go onto the Blackboard and download,
She did that.
download your,
I downloaded
there
it.
is no effect.
after you download.
Just
it-
close this window. Just close that window.
Y'all wasn't one to try. No, that's your ribbon. Go up to the top again where it brings down, drop down. Take your mouse all the way up to the top. There you go. Go to the far right, click those arrows that. It'll make it small again so you can see the rest of the stuff.
No.
Is there a map?
Yeah. I got it. Let's go to slideshow.
Alright, good morning. My name is Craig Johnson. I'm the contractor consultant. Ms. Avery. She is the client owner. Aaron is the programmer and Mr. Diz is the architect. We started out with our work plan. This is our work plan from week to week. We started off for the first week with our kickoff meeting with the client owner and the programmer. Going through that architect engineer selection. Going to the next week, we did our kickoff meeting with all the client, the users, everybody with the building committee, the whole team, architects team, consultants, everybody's at this meeting. We brought in information from our research from the week before. When we researched the building, all the information dealing with the building spaces, whether we're going to construction type, everything that's got to do with the new building that we're looking at, the architect, engineer intent, some of the things that the owner wants in this building in preparation of that week's meeting. Third week, we analyzed data provided by the client owner use group, the survey, client, with the owner and the users. And as you can see from, I'm not gonna go all through the whole week, but we got to break it out for week to week on items that we want to do in order to complete this program. All right, week one was our meeting minutes that was prepared for the first meeting with the owner, client, and the programmer. Discussing different things with the committee members. Different student, faculty that are gonna be involved in this project. Discussing the architect, engineer selection. That's going to be selected on this project to help design this building and specification for the building, research on prior architecture buildings, looking more for 21st century architecture buildings, researching the building code survey, we just collected all our data in that first week. That first week was pretty much for us to collect as much information as we needed, so we go into our next meeting with the whole user group, building committee, so we could be able to give them some options, different items that we looking at, different ways that we preparing to go with designing this building. Week one deliverables, we looked at different colleges that got architecture program. We're looking more for, like I said, toward the 21st century. I went outside of the state of Florida, looked at Boston Architecture College. One thing about this college, I know they're very successful with doing distant learning, giving you degrees in architecture without actually having to be there. So I went in there, I looked at how their program was set up, looking at how their studios were set up, different aspects of their building that, seeing what we can grab from this and bring into our building. Then I also went to look at Penn State LEED Gold School of Architecture, because we're trying to make this building a LEED architecture. So I did a little research, looked at some LEED buildings, see what kind of material we use, some ways that we can maybe get some LEED points, see how this building was successful, and see what ways we can bring it into our building and make our building as successful as this one as well. Then I went to the School of Architecture in New Mexico, looking at the design and the skin and the envelope of this building, looking at different materials that we would like to use in this building to bring in a lot of daylight, so we can make our building more energy efficient, cut down on some of the utility bills. I know that's a big issue around campus, trying to preserve and save money, looking at the different materials on the outside, looking at the different shape, the hierarchy of this building, seeing different ways that we can bring different aspects of this building into our building, looking at the studios that they got, some of the big classrooms I meant, where you can sit down and have a large class and look at different lectures and stuff like that. And also went into this other school of architecture, looking at this high-tech building right here, something that we want to do, more high-tech, bring it into more of the 21st century, something that really stands out, give you that wow factor. And that's something that we want this to be the signature building on this campus. By this being a school of architecture, we want the architecture to really stand out and make a statement. And every building from this point on can kind of like branch out from this building. So this building was very high tech, got a lot of lights, different colors, different skins you use on it, getting a little away from the modern, the brick that we use here in Tallahassee, just looking at different materials and different processes going by doing our building. All right, then we went into a LEED checklist. Looking at our LEED checklist, looking at this is pretty much a LEED form, looking at different areas where you may or may not get some LEED points to see whether you become LEED Gold, LEED Certified, LEED Silver, LEED Platinum. So we went through the LEED checklist and preliminary checklist. That was something that the program and the architect worked with to be able to give to the client to see exactly where we might follow that as becoming a LEED building on campus. And that was just a LEED sheet that we just checked out to show the different parts of LEED. Then we went to our meeting on the second week where we had our meeting with everyone involved, the client users, we had the building committee, all kind of faculty and staff, everybody that was going to be involved in the building to get their input on what type of building they want, the pros and the cons from the last building that they had to what they want in this new building going forward, going into the future, different things that they may want to happen.
And we two deliverables, what we did was after talking to the client and after we looked at the research for the other bids, we came up with a list of spaces that we would need as far as to make this architecture building a better place, and especially better than the one that we have now, moving forward, moving to a 21st century building. These are a list of some of the spaces, people that will be in the spaces, and we came over like square footage based on kind of like press. This is just a continuation of all the spaces. As you see, you have the education administration department, support spaces, study department. So you can really a lot of these spaces are, like I said, has the ability to do the online class, kind of like the recording the lectures, send them out, and a lot of high-tech information to go into. Like I said, these are some of the big support spaces in here, like a total square foot at the end, it's kind of like a 1 square foot of these spaces.
All right, here is the organization of spaces in a bubble diagram. And basically, this was based off of from what the programmer gave me. And excuse me for the differentiation of the sizes of the bubbles. Some of my true form kind of slipped out while organizing these spaces as far as like what's going to be bigger and what's going to be smaller. And in this dark area right here is where like the student studios, that's where they're going to be. But basically, I'm trying to incorporate everything from what the programmer gave me, and also especially with the high-tech classroom areas.
So there's you the architect?
Yes.
So the cyber cafe, how's that different from a cafe?
Cyber cafe? Well, I'd say it's, well, from
We have-
cafes now,
We have Wi-Fi all throughout the building.
yeah,
Do you serve coffee there like that?
but this building doesn't exist though.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But your cyber cafe, is it like a little, Starbucks in the building or something with Wi-Fi?
Starbucks in the building, yes. Starbucks in the building because what we're trying to do is incorporate things that will be beneficial to the students. So instead of students leaving to go off campus to go get something and then to come back, we'll have it right there, so they can just walk a couple of feet,
Yeah.
get what they want, and go back to work.
Or work there?
Or work there.
I mean, I see all kinds of people working in places like Panera and all restaurants. And what does that mean for a school of architecture that, people prefer to go somewhere like to a restaurant or coffee shop and work rather than work here? I have a question about the square footages in the last slide. Coming up with square footages is kind of this, it's a little bit of magic. It's also a little bit of guesswork, but eventually it has to be validated with some analysis. Because you don't want to have square footages that are either too big or too small. You want them just right. So, in order to establish what's just right, you really have to look at the activity in there and do some graphic sketches and things and verify and validate the square footage.
Okay.
Unless they're prescribed, by Department of Education, Regulation 682, so many square feet per student, just, that kind of thing.
A lot of these spaces, we was determined by SRAF, but when we looked at determining the square footage, we looked at what they need presently now and moving in the future for growth. That's how we look to try to determine our square footage. We don't want to design that just for the now, just for what it is. We always want to look for growth. Also taking effect of what the budget is and material costs, to try to keep it within the budget, and not try to make this magnificent large building where, material becomes a factor and then it be outside the budget. But we also always like to look at the growth of the building because we want this to be a signature building. We want to be known as one of the best architecture programs in the nation. So that's why we looked at our spaces, try to maximize as much space as we can. So for future growth and more intakes for students, faculty, and different other functions.
I think some of the spaces you should be considering shrinkage. Because, for example, in our studios now, they were based upon, as I said earlier, a big drafting board with parallel bar and all that sort of manual drawing determined the size of the desk, and the size of the desk determined, and we decided we would have 6 students per cubicle. And so when I laid out those cubicles, that was all sort of emanating from the desk to the number of students to the size of the cubicle. And now, there's no point in having a desk that big, because things have changed. Most of you don't really, well, it's nice to store things and just, because you don't do a lot of layout space. And in fact, it might be more efficient to have a workstation be much smaller and then have a shared layout space where you can either be building models, or you can be looking at a big site plan or some other things.
Well, which is true, but we are trying to go back to the architectural boards, as you see on one of our slides, at the University of Boston, one of these studios did have a drafting table. And that gives the student a more feel of being an architect than just a regular table where you sit down, cut. You know, if they got that drafting table with you, parallel balls where they can do some sketches, tilted, they can do remodels on. It gives them that feeling and more being more like an architect instead of just a CAD person. And we felt like just with the regular table that we have now, got the students feeling more CAD suave, CAD technical, and actually thinking like an architect and using an architecture table. And that's the direction we were planning on going.
That's a very interesting comment, because, in fact, a little bit surprising that that's such an old school idea that architects have drafting tables, and that, you know, the whole idea of sketching, I know you've been told over and over again by faculty that you gotta learn to sketch, and it's very important. You might be in a client meeting and you want to take out your fat pencil and sketch on yellow paper, yellow trace. Don't believe it. A few years from now, even now, we've got the tools where you can do all that sketching right on your laptop and project it onto the wall for your client. So it's kind of a nice romantic idea, but it's going to die. Unless you love doing it. You know, it's a hobby. You love sketching, you love going on travels and draw. That used to be sort of heresy for somebody, I mean, it still is, for someone to say that, particularly a teacher, but it's just the plain truth. And so architects are CAD jockeys, whether they like it or not, and designing on the computer is going to be more and more prevalent, and it's going to be more and more natural. Yeah.
The firms I worked at, there were guys that designed on a computer, and they couldn't, I mean, it's so limited. I mean, like Ian said, you need such a big space that when they were designed, they'd only look at the individual parts, and they ended up messing up the whole picture.
Yeah, that's
I mean, if
because
you replace books with,
always do it.
instead of having 10 books, you have 10 screens.
Yeah.
If you had the space for that, it's fine.
you
but
don't. You have a big wall.
Yeah.
Don't
The
be
technology
limited by what you
changes
think of
really
right
quickly.
now.
Well, you have 6 iPads.
That whole wall over there, that whole wall over there is your computer.
Could be a screen, yeah.
And you're working, and you can be working at multiple levels, flipping back and forth, and you could have one screen over there could be the whole picture, another screen could be zooming in on a detail, another screen could be rotating the model, another screen could be, why not? Yeah.
We had an instance where over in downtown Council, where they had a brownout where the power was running real low, and it killed half the networks downtown.
Right.
And it zapped ours.
Yeah.
And we need some details done. And there were some guys that can only sit there in front of a computer, they couldn't figure out how to do it. So, like me and a couple other people, we just drew it out on the board, and we got it from people on time.
Right.
The other people, they couldn't, because the network was down and it killed some of the hard drives, so they were like, go home. You know, you're not good for any speed right now, but you can't draw on the board. They got sent home. It's like, well, network's down, you can't go use the computer, so you go home.
Plus, some architects hate when you design on the computer.
Yeah.
A lot of architects know
Old
school, they
school
always hate
architects.
some
Well,
stuff.
Yeah, old school.
that's my generation.
Yeah, it should be up to, I work for architects that they do their design on the computer. We gonna fast
You
forward
guys-
to,
Forget the
we
old
fast
people.
forward to this because.
Take it over.
Yeah, yeah, you go ahead. But I just wanna say one thing, you know, we're not talking about the present. We're talking about the future, 5, 6, 10 years from now. And if you compare where we are today with where we were 5, 6, 10 years ago, it's light years different.
Alright, just moving quickly, we just looked at some deliverable, different materials that we wanna look at, you know, glass type, you know, different, spaces, high efficiency levels, light control, HVAC, etc. Looking at different envelopes for the structure, looking at, joists, metal buildings, we're looking at different skins, aluminum panels, concrete bars, etc. And we were looking at the architecture components, different components that the architect and engineer wanted for this building. Then we went into our third week meetings. We have meetings every week to keep this process going. Mainly on Thursday, around 12:30, we always meet and keep people with information. I'm moving kind of fast, I don't know time.
Alright, and so I'm the client, the user and the client owner. Basically what I did, instead of starting with the survey, kind of got a committee together of a couple people, some students and faculty. And we just sat down and asked some questions of like, what do we want to see in the building? From what we have now to changing it. So, when I was talking to the students, they were more so on laser printers, lounges, inviting exterior spaces and updated studio spaces. Just more interactive things, really. And then when I was talking to the professors, it was more so on some teaching. So a lot of the buildings, they wanted to be more exposed, have more open areas where you can actually see the how like the elevators work, or more exposed structure. I know we have it in the studios, but they just wanted more so that we can actually explain to the students instead of just teaching them and then showing them in the studio lessons. So that's, and then now from here, after we have, I've been here and talked to them, from this, we're gonna go and do a survey based off of these. You know, if you like this space, what would you like this, and then this is just a percentage of, can't really see it, of our tax and how much we've done.
Okay, great. I really like a lot of the research you're doing. The case studies I think are important, and the discussion about materials, all of that's really useful.
Thank you.
Okay.